Good evening, everyone. It's a great joy once again to share with our friends in Chennai. And we come here every year at least once, and we have to compliment you as a region. I think there is the most sweet nature and deep devotion in the Chennai area of anywhere we have ever traveled to, and we always love to come back again and again. So, to continue our topic this evening, Kriya Yoga, the answer to life's problems. First, I'll give a little bit of background as Jyotish was also speaking. Kriya Yoga, for those of you who have, it's a new term, is a technique of pranayama, a meditation technique. Kriya, the Sanskrit root, is from the same root as karma, to act. And so in Autobiography of a Yogi, Yogananda gives this simple definition. Kriya Yoga is union yoga with the infinite through a specific action or spiritual practice. And this, in a way, is not a very satisfying definition because it doesn't really touch our hearts very much, our lives very much. But the practice of this through the search for the infinite, through the practice of Kriya Yoga, you will come to find that many of the problems that plague us as human beings, and especially in the very high-paced world we live in today, that Kriya Yoga provides very specific answers and remedies to life's problems. And I'm going to talk about that now very specifically. What are some problems that are common to most of us? Let's start with problem number 1, poor health and fatigue, tiredness, so forth. The practice of Kriya Yoga, because it is a pranayama, what you're doing is you're bringing more oxygen into our body. We are decarbonizing the blood. You know, we have the blood that comes from the heart, which is filled with oxygen, and the blood that comes back to the heart, which is filled with carbon dioxide. And it's a constant breaking down and building up. Well, Kriya Yoga short circuits that process, and you are drawing more oxygen into your system, which is converted to life force or energy, this extra oxygen, which rejuvenates the brain, the subtle spinal centers, and the cells of the body. So that I have known many Kriya Yogis all over the world. They're people of tremendous energy, and the process of disease and decay is slowed down. We have a large ashram in California, and we have a clinic there that serves not only the devotees, but also the general public. And the doctor who runs the clinic, he is a follower of these teachings. He says it's very interesting to watch because Kriya Yogis are at least biologically 10 years younger than their chronological age. I won't tell you how old we are, but it might surprise you. But for each of us, Kriya Yoga gives us that extra energy. People often say, how do you keep traveling around the world all the time? Really, through the practice of Kriya Yoga, the brain, the cells, everything is recharged and things become effortless. And so also with illness and disease, it's not that devotees are without illness. Of course not. We all have our karma. But I have seen people recover very, very quickly. And one might even say miraculous ways. Doctors have said, this was terminal cancer. We don't know how you cured yourself of this, but all we can say is that we see it happening. And so the practice of Kriya Yoga fills our body cells with that extra energy that can be used for vital brain, for energy in everything we need to do. And it just, you don't feel like you're a car that's gradually running out of gas and it drives a little bit slower. Quite the opposite. You feel every time you practice Kriya, I just refilled my tank of benzyl. And so it's a wonderful gift. Problem number 2. The stress that comes from all the problems that face us in daily life. What decisions should I make at work? How can I deal with my disobedient child? How can I deal with, how can I decide what decisions to make? And there are so many problems facing everyone. And it creates stress because we don't know how to make decisions. Well, Kriya Yoga, again, we direct the current of life force up into the brain. We have the brain, scientists are discovering it has many different areas. The most advanced and developed part of the brain, I know there are many doctors here among you, it's what the forefront of the brain, what they call the prefrontal lobes. This is the area of concentration, of focused mental function, of calmness, of clarity, of solution orientation. And so with the practice of Kriya Yoga, we bring the energy away from the more primitive parts of the brain. This it's not even mystical teachings, truly. It's pure physiology. The more primitive parts of the brain, what they call the limbic system, is where we fear, anxiety, anger, all these things are activated. So with the practice of Kriya Yoga, and aren't you already wanting to learn it? With the practice of Kriya Yoga, you're bringing the energy to the advanced parts of the brain. So if problems face you, you have clarity, you know what decision to make. Yogananda's most spiritually advanced disciple in America was a self-made millionaire. He started off from humble circumstances, but he had such power of concentration. He was a yogi in many past lives, Master told us. But he was on the board of directors of many big corporations. But every morning he would practice Kriya Yoga and meditation for many hours. He wouldn't come into the office till 10 or 11, and all of his subordinates and co-workers would say, "How can you afford to miss all this time?" And he said, "It's because of my practices at home that I am able to be a success." He would be listening to a financial report just quietly, and he would say, "No, you quoted another figure 10 pages back." His mind was so focused that he was able to see clearly the decisions that needed to be made. And I see this in working. It's why it's such a joy working with devotees here in Chennai, wherever we go, because there's clarity. People work in a coordinated way because it isn't like, well, we have to do it this way. No, let's do it that way. People see this most direct and most fruitful way to approach a problem, and then they work together and they're able to accomplish it. So the stress that comes from facing the problems of daily life really are very much answered through the practice of Kriya Yoga. Okay, life problem number 3, unhappiness caused by disharmonious relationships, human relationships. Jyotish and I do quite a bit of personal counseling with others, marriage counseling and so forth. And I often say, not humorously, but sadly, if we had a rupee for every tear we have seen shed over human relationships, we would have quite a fortune. And so it's very common that people can't figure out how to get along with others, how to find harmony, how to express love for their spouse, for their child, for their colleagues. How does Kriya Yoga help us with this? How could a yogic technique help us to get along with our mother-in-law, for example? Well, what Kriya Yoga does, again, two things are involved here. One, it opens the centers, the subtle centers, the chakras. And one of those centers is the heart chakra. And for most people, life teaches us to close down. People are not trustworthy. People will betray you. This person is always criticizing me. So little by little, we close down the heart. But through the practice of Kriya, not in relationship to anyone else, but you just begin naturally to feel a flow of energy in your heart. You begin to see everyone as your friend. You know, we travel a lot and we have to stay in hotels. And recently we were in Delhi and for about 10 days staying in a hotel for some work we were doing there. And it was so sweet to us because there was a man who would come and clean our room every day, and a young woman who would come and bring flowers or water, so forth. And they became they didn't know anything about us, but they just said, "Oh, can you tell us when you will be gone from your room? Because we only want to come when you're here. We like to be around you." And we said, fine. So we would always be there when they came. And then they said, "When are you leaving?" And we said, "Well, Saturday morning, early, 8 o'clock. We will come to say goodbye to you." And they came to say goodbye to us. They weren't on duty. And the one woman, her name was Harwinder, she said, "Ma'am, you won't forget me, will you?" And I said, "Of course I won't forget you." And so, Harwinder, wherever you are, know that I am not forgetting you. But it's just because the heart naturally becomes open, and you see everyone as your friend, even the nagging mother-in-law or the rude boss. You don't have to react to them. And so that's one aspect, the opening of the heart. But then another, and I think perhaps more important aspect, how Kriya helps us to improve our relationships. Remember we talked about bringing the energy up through the higher centers. Well, according to the teachings of yoga, the ego, the sense of separation, this is me and I'm not you, that resides in the area, the chakra of the medulla oblongata. Whereas the spiritual eye, the Kathusta Chaitanya, resides at the point between the eyebrows. So whenever we are entrenched in our ego, we become entrenched in our own opinions. I'm right, you're wrong, I can't compromise, this is what I think. And the more we bring that energy past the ego to the spiritual eye, we begin seeing there are many different perspectives. I don't have to always be right. It reminds me of a dream that I had. In the dream, I'm ashamed to admit, I was having an argument with another woman, and of course I was right, my opinion was right, and we were arguing back and forth. I don't even remember the subject. And then at a certain point, a third woman entered the dream, and she looked at me and she said, "You know, you're not always right." And I became so upset because I thought, this is my dream. I can be right in my own dream, but you know, it isn't our dream, it's God's dream. This life is not our dream. It's all His manifestation. And so if we can lose that tendency, that obsession that we have to be right, I don't like the way they do things, there's only one way to do things, And the other day, Jyotish has a very good mathematical mind, which I don't. And so we were trying to calculate something, I think it was about kilos and pounds, about luggage. And so I calculated it, and he calculated it, and I said, well, it's this. And he said, no, it's that. You didn't figure it right. And of course, he was right. And so then the next, we were calculating something else, and he said, no, you're wrong, I'm right. And I said, we have to share who's right. You can't be right all the time. And so he said, okay, I'll share. I'll give you the permission to be right, even though I know it's not right. But it was such a nice way to just be able to say, we don't have to cling to our own opinion. And if we want to find harmony with others, we have to see the bigger, what's trying to happen in a bigger way. So another aspect, how Kriya Yoga can help our lives, another problem, is the problem of feeling a helpless victim to the ups and downs in life. Today's a good day, I'm happy. Tomorrow's a bad day, I'm unhappy. And it's this perpetual, unending, we feel like a little ping pong ball being hit back and forth across the table without much self-control. Well, the practice of Kriya Yoga gives us the ability to be centered in ourself, so that whatever may be going on around us, we still never lose our peace of mind, our joy, our ability to relate to life with calmness and clarity, and because it draws the energy away from the outward perceptions into the center of our own being. And it's from that center of our own being that we are able to deal with whatever happens. At Ananda Village, Ananda Ashram in California, where we reside much of the time, I wouldn't say most of the time, we have had many setbacks. We have had forest fires that burned the ashram to the ground. Everything was gone. We have had financial problems. There have been many, many problems. But Swami Kriyananda, our founder, always set the example. Whatever, in fact, beautiful story, when the forest fire came, the big one, this was some years ago, and Jyotish and I lost everything we had, all of our home, our possessions, everything. And when Swami saw us the next day after it happened, he didn't want me to, he didn't want me to get into an emotionally downward spiral. And so he looked at me and he said, how are you? Well, that's good. He didn't give me a chance to answer. But then the next day he wrote a little note to us and he said, I'm sorry for your loss, but always remember what God gives, we take. And if you can just, from your center, whatever happens, just say, this is from God. This is from God. It's all from God. And then we lose that sense that we're helpless in this world. Swami Sri Yukteswar, Yogananda's guru, as our beloved friend Sri Kartikeyan was saying, if you haven't read Autobiography of a Yogi, it is one of the great gifts to the world at this time. Do read it. It has changed the lives of millions. And just as an aside, we're very, very happy to announce that we have just released, it's come out in different regional languages, but we have just released not only the Hindi translation, but the Hindi Braille version of Autobiography for blind people. It's just very heartwarming. And the cover has, of course, the beautiful picture of Guru Deva, but they did it in such a way that it's pixelated, so blind people can feel the cover and they can feel what his face feels like. But in this book, Swami Sri Yukteswar, Yoganandaji's guru, said, The greater the realization of a person, the more they are able to influence the world around them. And so even that, instead of just saying, well, this happened, oh dear, this happened, oh my, but by being very centered in yourself, you can calm the troubled waters around you. You can change things in positive ways, even if you're not aware of it. But that's being very deeply, strongly centered in yourself gives us that ability. Okay, problem number 5, human problem that Kriya Yoga can provide an answer to. This is the frustration that comes because we are bound by past habits, past attitudes, old ways of thinking and being. Oh, I would so much like to give up smoking, and I've tried it so many times, but I just can't seem to do it. I would so wish I could stop getting angry with my friends, but it just comes up uncontrollably. Well, why are we bound by certain habit patterns and attitudes? It is karma. But what is the mechanism of karma? Karma is energy patterns that we have started in the past. That's all karma is. We act, there's a reaction, and that reaction creates a vortex of energy, vritti in Sanskrit. And these vortices of energy, reside in the subtle spine, and they are influencing us much, much more than we are aware. And so the practice of Kriya Yoga, remember we were talking about drawing energy up the spine? It is like if you have a sluggish stream, a little creek or rivulet, and there's debris in it, the debris won't be washed away. It'll just keep swirling around. But if you introduce a powerful flow of energy in that stream, that debris will be washed away, won't it? And so it is with the flow of energy of Kriya Yoga. We have all these vrittis, these karmic vortices from past actions in our subtle spine. By working with the pranayama technique of Kriya Yoga, we introduce a powerful current in the spine. And it helps us to release those accumulated energy patterns. There's a story in Autobiography of a Yogi where Master's family, he had 5 brothers and sisters. He was the 6th child, and they were always wanting him to get married. He didn't want to get married. He knew his life was service to humanity as a Swami. But he had an older brother that was always very stern and difficult for him. And so the older brother had an astrologer draw up a horoscope. And the horoscope said that Yoganandaji would be married 3 times, twice a widower. And the brother kind of flaunted this in front of him. Yogananda took that horoscope and he burnt it up, put the ashes in a paper bag, and he wrote on the bag, "The seeds of past karma cannot germinate when roasted in the fires of Kriya Yoga." And so understand this. Those habits and past karma that plague you, you can find freedom from them through this practice. And then finally, the last problem that we'll talk about is problem number 6 in human life, is the sense of loneliness and being unsupported in life. And remember we said at the beginning, Kriya Yoga means union with the infinite through a certain practice. Through the practice of Kriya Yoga, we begin to feel we are part of a greater reality. We begin to feel that there is a guiding, beneficent, loving force that is a part of our life, that is always watching our life. You know, just to share a little personal story, the first time I remember seeing that face, I was quite a little girl, little American girl about 4 years old. living in the Midwest of America in St. Louis, Missouri, if you know where that is. And my father, and I couldn't read yet, but my father had a magazine, and I was just looking at the pictures. And it must have been an advertisement for Autobiography of a Yogi. And I saw that face, a little girl. I didn't know anything about India. I didn't know anything about yoga, but I saw that face. And I looked at it and I thought, is that a man? Is that a woman? I didn't know. But I never forgot that face. And then when I was older, someone gave me the book, Autobiography. But it was though there were touches of his presence in my life. This is not unique to me. I don't share that story for you to feel that. I share that story because through the practice of Kriya, we begin to feel that wonderful, loving presence, that has always been there in the background, but we were too busy to notice it. And Yoganandaji came with a great, great mission. And I would like to close by reading a beautiful poem of his called God's Boatman. I will read it first in English, and then I will invite Prasanna to come and read it in Tamil, which it's just been translated. So you can come and we'll read it. So this is from the beautiful book, Whispers from Eternity, which is a book of Yogananda's poems and prayers. So this is called God's Boatman by Yoganandaji. And I invite you, let's all sit up and let's have an experience now. No, you don't need to stand, just sit. Sit. But close your eyes and feel that Yoganandaji is talking to you, because he is. He came to bring all souls to find the joy and peace of their own being. And this is what he says. God's Boatman. I want to ply my boat many times across the gulf after death and return to earth's shores from my home in space. I want to load my boat with all those waiting, thirsty ones who have been left behind, that I may carry them to the opalescent pool of iridescent joy, there where my Father distributes his all-desire-quenching liquid peace. Oh, I will come back again and again, crossing 1,000,000 crags of suffering. With bleeding feet I will come, if need be 1,000,000,000,000 times, as long as I know one stray brother is left behind. I want thee, O God, that I may give thee to all. I want salvation, that I may give it to all. Free me then, O Lord, from the bondage of this body, that I may show others how they too can free themselves. I want thine everlasting happiness, but I want also to share it with others, that all my brothers may find the way to happiness forever and forever in thee. And now Prasanna will read it in Tamil.
பரமஹன்ச யோகானந்தரின் வார்த்தைகள். கடவுளின் படகோட்டி. பரமஹன்ச யோகானந்தரின் கவிதை. நான் என் படகை ஓட்டி வர விழைகிறேன் பலமுறை, இறப்பை தாண்டி உள்ள வளைகுடாவின் குறுக்கே. இப்பூமியின் கரைகளுக்கு திரும்புவேன், சொர்க்கத்திலுள்ள என் வீட்டிலிருந்து. என் படகில் ஏற்றிக்கொள்ள விழைகிறேன் காத்திருப்பவர்கள், தாகத்துடன் உள்ளவர்கள், பின்தங்கிவிட்டவர்களை. ஏற்றிக்கொண்டு செல்வேன் அந்த ஆனந்த வண்ணமய வானவில் நிறைந்த மாணிக்க குளம் வழியே. எங்கே என் தந்தை அளிக்கிறாரோ ஆசைகளெல்லாம் தீர்க்கும் அவரின் அமைதி அமுதை. ஓ, நான் வருவேன் மீண்டும் மீண்டும். துன்பமெனும் 1000 கொடும்பாறைகளை தாண்டி குருதி வழியும் பாதத்தோடு நான் வருவேன், வேண்டுமெனில் பல கோடி முறை. ஒரு வழி தவறிய சகோதரன் பின்தங்கியுள்ளான் என்று எனக்கு தெரியும் வரை நீங்கள் எனக்கு வேண்டும் ஓ இறைவா, நான் உங்களை எல்லோருக்கும் கொடுப்பதற்கு. எனக்கு பேரின்பப் பேறு வேண்டும், நான் அதை எல்லோருக்கும் கொடுப்பதற்கு. விடுவித்து விடு என்னை ஓ இறைவா இவ்வுடலின் தலையிலிருந்து. அதனால் நான் காட்டுவேன் அவர்களுக்கு எப்படி அவர்கள் தங்களை விடுவித்துக் கொள்வதென. எனக்கு தங்களை நிலைத்திருக்கும் இன்பம் வேண்டும், அதை மட்டுமே பிறருடன் நான் பகிர்ந்து கொள்ள. அதனால் என் சகோதரர்களுக்கு நான் காட்டித் தருவேன் இன்பத்திற்கான வழியை, என்றென்றும் என்றென்றும் உன்னுள்ளே.